Hello everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Destiny video. Continuing going through the Awakening set, today we are looking at Flank, Gray Neutral, so you can use it in Hero or Villain decks, and also doesn't matter what color you're using because it's gray. One resource, play only if you have more ready characters than an opponent, remove one of that opponent's dice. So it works really well. I've had good success with this in like Stormtrooper decks or Rebel Trooper decks, just decks where you have between 3 and 4 characters. If you're playing against a 2 character deck, and even if you've activated a character already and they've activated a character, you're still going to have more readied characters, so you're able to remove one of their dice. So even if you're doing 2-on-2, it works in that situation as well. So if you're playing against, let's say it's just 2-on-2, they roll a character out, it goes to you. You have 2 ready characters still. You can still use flank. It's a nice way to, like, let's say they roll a mind probe special out or a force throw special, or just something you don't particularly want to deal with, like 3 damage, like 3 unmodified damage that they can just resolve. Pay 1 resource and just remove that die, or any other die that is maybe potentially going to be a problem. That's flank, very simple. Just play if you have more ready characters and you get to remove one of their dice. We're going to move into our next card. We are back with Take Cover, another neutral event, 0 resources, so it's free. Give a character 1 shield. So essentially it's a free shield. It's also neutral, so it goes in hero or villain decks. I think, as far as hero goes, I think defensive position is, or not defensive position, but defensive stance is a better card. It's 1 resource, but you get 2 shields, and it works really well with Qui-Gon and his ability. However, Take Cover is also good because it's free. You can fit it into any kind of deck. I think it's going to maybe play well in Kylo Vader, the new Dark Apprentice Vader, because Vader's special is going to be dealing damage to himself. You do 3 damage, you take 1. You can run a couple take covers, throw a shield on Vader. If he has a special out, resolve his special. He does 3 damage, and you just take that shield off. Play it again, get another shield on Vader, and you can use his ability again without actually damaging Vader. That deck's also going to do well with something like Hidden in Shadow. So if you don't have a shield on him, you can exhaust that to give him a shield. But um, Take Cover is good because it's just a free shield and works well in any deck. We're going to take a look at our next card. All right, we are back with Disarm, yellow neutral event, cost 1 resource. Remove one of your dice showing damage, melee or ranged, to discard a weapon or equipment from play that costs equal to or less than the value of that die. So if I remove, let's say, a 2 melee damage die or a 2 range damage die, you can remove something like an F11D, a holdout blaster, anything that costs 2 or less. If you like, let's say you're playing this with Poe and you roll his 3 damage for a resource, and your opponent has an IQA blaster, you can remove Poe's die, remove Poe's range damage die to discard their blaster. It doesn't just remove the die; it discards the card entirely as well. So unless they're playing on like the Starship Graveyard or have a way to get like scavenge something back out of their discard pile, it's a nice way to get rid of some of their weapons, especially if those are weapons that could potentially redeploy. So this prevents them from using the weapon. It also prevents it from redeploying as well. So Disarm, I also feel, is going to become a lot more powerful and a lot maybe more played when Spirit of Rebellion comes out with cards like Overkill, which it just says remove a die showing damage. It doesn't say can't be modified damage. So you can remove Overkill's +3 modified damage to remove a resource that costs, or not a resource, an equipment or a weapon that costs 3 or less. So if you rolled out, let's say you rolled out a couple guns, and you rolled out Overkill, and you got blanks on the guns, and you got the +3 on Overkill, you can, if you have Disarm, you can still make use of that +3 range damage by removing or discarding one of their cards. So that's Disarm. I believe it's going to get a lot stronger once Spirit of Rebellion comes out, and there's a lot of cards and characters in Spirit of Rebellion that are going to be doing a lot of damage and have like multiple damage sides. Like a Death Trooper has 4 damage sides. So if you roll something on the Death Trooper, you can potentially discard stuff of that as well because it's a neutral card. It's going to go in either hero or villain decks. You just have to be playing yellow. We're going to move into our next card. All right, we are back with Electroshock. Neutral event, neutral yellow. One resource, spot a yellow character to remove a die showing a value 2 or lower, so you just have to have a yellow character that's still alive. Pay your one resource, remove a die with a value 2 or less. One of the best removal dice or cards in the game. He doesn't like you also very good, but you do have to remove one of your dice to remove an opponent's. This just lets you say, hey, I have a yellow character, going to pay a resource, and remove the die that's holding one of your combos together. So, Electroshock, it's very simple, but one of the best removal cards in the game so far. Um, it's, helped me with a lot of games where I'm like, okay, that guy's got a lot of range damage. It's all modified except for the one that's making it so it's resolvable. I'm going to spot my yellow character, pay my resource, remove that one unmodified damage, and then leave a bunch of modified damage on the board that are going to, or on the table that are going to have to possibly be re-rolled or focused or something like that to actually make them useful. So that's Electroshock. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Reversal. Neutral yellow event again. 3 resources, so I think it's a little high, little expensive. But spot a yellow character to remove a die showing either ranged or melee damage and deal that damage to a character. So basically, you pay your 3 resources. Let's say you're playing against Luke. He's got a 3 melee damage showing. Pay 3 resources, do 3 damage to Luke. I do think the cost on the card is a little bit high, but it might be you're doing damage for one. That's a plus. You're also removing the die, so you're getting rid of. Let's say they have Luke on his 3 damage side, and they're trying to get more melee damage on the board. You can remove some of that damage. Maybe even remove a card or a die that's um, going to be resolved along with modified damage. So you can remove that die, make that modified damage kind of useless until it can get rerolled, and also do damage according to whatever the number on the die is. This could do you could do really well if somebody rolled an ATST and you had you basically pay your 3 resources, remove that damage to hit a character for a ton of damage. Let's say it's like the 4 damage or 5 damage on the ATST. You can remove that die and deal that damage to a character, potentially win depending on what their health is. So I do think it's a little expensive, but it could be very situational where it's like, hey, I just need to do 3 damage to win the game. I have 3 resources, and there's a 3 damage die that my opponent has. Pay up the resources, remove the die, do the 3 damage, win the game. That's Reversal. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we are looking at Scramble. 0 resources, another yellow neutral event. Spot a yellow character to re-roll all of an opponent's dice. So you just have to have a yellow character that's still alive. You do that, you play this, they re-roll all their dice. So let's say you kind of patiently wait while they discard to re-roll stuff, and then let's say they discard to re-roll, they don't get what they need. You passes to you, you do something, passes back to them, they discard to re-roll, they finally get the dice rolls that they need, and then it's on your turn. You just throw this out, have them re-roll, and hopefully get worse results than what they already had. So you can make their roll worse, and then they also just wasted a bunch of cards on re-rolling. Or if they have a ton of damage showing, you can just force them to re-roll um, all of their dice, and hopefully they just get blanks or less damage, things like that. So basically just wait it out until they get what they want, what they can use on you, and then when it goes back to your part of the turn, you just make them re-roll all of it. So that's Scramble. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Unpredictable. 0 resources. Yellow neutral event again. Has Ambush, so you get to take another action after you do it. So you play this. You can re-roll a die, either yours or your opponent's, and then you get another action. So it works well in like Han and Ray, because you get Ambush, so Han's going to get a shield out of it. Then you get to re-roll a die. So let's say your opponent has like a Mind Probe special out. You can play this, re-roll their Mind Probe special, hopefully get something worse than what they already had, and then you get to take another action. So you can also, let's say you have some, also works well with damage. So if you have a couple modified dice, and let's say you pay 0, play Unpredictable, re-roll one of those dice to hopefully get unmodified damage, and then since it has Ambush, you can then go ahead and resolve it as well. It's kind of a staple in yellow. It's a nice dice control card because you can re-roll your opponent's dice. You can also re-roll your own dice, and then again Ambush, so you get that second, that free action after you play it. That's unpredictable. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Infamous. It's a support. Yellow neutral support, cost 1. Before you play a yellow card, you may exhaust this support to give it the ambush keyword. So you basically just turn it to the side. The next yellow card you play, after doing that, will get ambush. So obviously, Han and Ray decks are going to use this because you can basically yellow events now basically that don't have the ambush become ambush if you use it with this. So Han gets his shield. This is also going to work incredibly well with like Jin Urso or just yellow in general once Spirit of Rebellion comes out, because there's Never Tell Me the Odds, which is 3 resources. You can choose a yellow character that you have, and you can turn any of its character or upgrade dice to any side. So you're going to couple that with Infamous. So you exhaust Infamous, play Never Tell Me the Odds. It costs 3, so it's kind of expensive. However, if you're playing it with Jin Urso, if it's the first yellow event you play on your turn, she can reduce that cost by 1 to bring it down to 2. So you have your yellow character out. Let's say you've rolled her out. She's got a few guns on her and things like that. You exhaust Infamous, play Never Tell Me the Odds. You arrange your yellow dice. You put your yellow dice for her on whatever sides you want. And since you gave it ambush, you can then just go ahead and resolve them. So you just resolve it for a ton of damage. So you can roll out, let's say you roll out 2 Jin Urso and she's got 2 DL44 blasters. You can change her dice to damage, the DL44 dice to damage, and then just, fire and do a ton of damage with it. So that's Infamous. We're going to move into our next card. Alright, and the final card for this video is Hunker Down. This is actually the final normal card in the Awakening set, so we've made it through the set. We just have to do the location cards. So Hunker Down, neutral yellow event, 0 resources. You attach it to a character. If the attached character takes any melee damage, they discard this upgrade. One thing to mention, if they take melee damage but shields block all the melee damage, the character doesn't technically take the melee damage, so Hunker Down actually stays. So if the character doesn't have any shields and they take 1 melee damage, you get rid of the upgrade. Anyway, you exhaust the upgrade to give that character a shield. So if you're playing against decks that have melee damage, this might not be super helpful, but if you're only playing against decks that are doing range damage, you might be able to have this out the entire game, and pretty much if you use it every round, you're going to get at least 1 shield, 1 guaranteed shield. So let's say you're playing the new Vader in blue and yellow. You can attach this to Vader, and also if he's not playing against melee damage or taking melee damage, you can give him a shield pretty much like constantly, like each round get a shield, and then that'll protect him from the damage, the self-damage that his ability inflicts on him. So that is Hunker Down. That's the final card from the normal part of the Awakening set. We're going to do another video probably in the next day or 2 where we're going to start with the locations, like discussing the locations and all that. So I want to thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.